Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. In today's video I thought why not do a full face of one of my favorite brands, Pat McGrath. I feel like this year and the last half of last year, to be honest, as well, Pat McGrath releases have been not as exciting as they used to be. However, Pat McGrath remains to be one of my favorite brands because I already have products from her that have stood the test of time for me. A lot of my Pat McGrath products are staples in my collection and I would immediately repurchase them if I were to fully finish them or lose them. So we're going to talk about those products today. And of course, as with every brand, not everything is perfection. So there are some products that are kind of average for me or they underperform. So I'll tell you about those too. One thing Pat McGrath has never ever done is eyebrow products. So I already have my eyebrows done, as you can see. And if you're interested in any of the Pat McGrath products I'm going to be applying to my face today, I will have them all listed in the description box of the video, so definitely check them out. They'll probably also be tagged on the video through YouTube shopping. Whenever you shop for my links, it helps out my channel. And let's get started. I do already have my face moisturized and I don't have a Pat McGrath primer. The Pat McGrath makeup line does have a makeup primer, but it's kind of one of these like silicone-y primers that I don't ever feel like do much for my skin, and it also doesn't have the best reviews. So long story short, I don't have that one. I did prep my skin with my moisturizer slash primer, which is Magic Cream, and so the first thing I'm going to do today is apply one of my most used Pat McGrath products of all time, which is the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Foundation. You guys know I am constantly reviewing new foundation formulas. I review probably 3 to 4 new foundation bottles maybe every month, depends on the releases really, but a lot of new formulas every year. The Pat McGrath foundation has been out for probably 4 to 5 years now, and I have gone through either 3 or 4 full bottles of it. I simply love it that much. This is a staple for me. The moment I run out of it, I have to repurchase it. I think I just moved my bottle and I can't show you the inside anymore, but this is again either my 3rd or 4th bottle of Pat McGrath foundation, and I only have about this much left in it because truly I use it that much. Every time I leave my house to go anywhere, this is the staple foundation I take with me. It is a tried and true product and I absolutely love it. The color I use is light medium 9, and you can just as easily apply your Pat McGrath foundation with a brush or a sponge. I usually go for the sponge just because it's a little easier. One thing about the Pat McGrath foundation is it is very liquidy, so you have to be very careful because it might splash you. I remember when I first got it, I loved it, but then there was a while there where I was like trying new things and I didn't use it for a couple of months, and I opened it one day to use it again and it was a little clogged and it splashed all over my window. Like I had a window right here in my previous house, all over the window. So do be careful because it is a very liquidy foundation. I have since never stopped using it as much, I guess, because it never happened again. It's never gotten clogged again. But if it did, I think I would also kind of be prepared. Anyways, this foundation, let me tell you the reason I love it so much. It is the thinnest foundation, which, as I said, has its disadvantage, but also it is the most skin-like foundation in my opinion. It is a medium coverage. All of my redness is immediately covered with it, and it is also buildable. So you can get a really solid medium coverage with it. I wouldn't dare say full, but a solid medium coverage with it that, because the formula is so thin, always looks extremely natural on the face. Another thing I love about it, and this is something that I have heard through people trying it over the years, is I love it and I have dry skin, but if you have combination or oily skin, people with combination and oily skin also love this formula. It is also a long-lasting foundation for them. It also looks very natural. It has this beautiful natural to glowy finish, And even in high humidity like Miami weather, this foundation will look good, look natural, and last all day long, even if you have oily skin, which I think it's crazy. I don't know what type of witchcraft is in this formula, but it truly works for absolutely everyone, and it looks so beautiful and so natural on every single skin type and also in every single skin tone. They have a huge variety of shades in this foundation as well. And yes, it's definitely not an affordable foundation. It's $65, $68, I believe. But Pat McGrath does have sales often, and so you can usually get it with at least a 25% off discount, sometimes even 30% off on the Pat McGrath website. So whenever I'm running low on mine, I always wait for a Pat McGrath sale, which she has them pretty often. And I always get my foundation refill with a really good percentage off. And just take a look at how beautiful and how natural that looks. The next product I'm going to use is the Pat McGrath concealer, and there was a moment in time in which I was obsessed with the Pat McGrath concealer. In fact, I used a whole tube of concealer from Pat McGrath, and then when I restocked, I purchased two. I purchased L5 and L6. The one I fully used was L6. However, I can no longer tell you that I'm obsessed with the Pat McGrath concealer, and if I were to run out of my Pat McGrath concealer, I don't know that I would repurchase it. The reason being, I think the formula changed. Either that or, I mean, it has to be that. The Pat McGrath concealer was always a pretty full coverage concealer. It was always a creamy concealer, and it always had a natural finish to it. And this one has all of those properties. However, the initial concealer tube I had, I swear, was more hydrating than once I restocked on it. The formula of my concealer restock was noticeably different from the initial Pat McGrath concealer that I was in love with. They didn't announce any changes in the formulation of the concealer. I'm going to use some on my eyelid, by the way, and you can see how full coverage it is. They didn't announce any changes in the formulation of the concealer. It's supposed to be the same as that initial launch, but I just noticed that whenever I use the Pat McGrath concealer, my under eyes look a little bit dry, and that used to never be the case. It used to be this full coverage. It used to have the same type of beautiful finish, but in my opinion, it used to wear better on my dry skin throughout the day. Now, this might only be a problem for me because I have desert dry skin. I think maybe if you have normal or combination or oily skin, this concealer is still going to work beautifully for you. But because my skin is so dry, I actually loved the fact that what I'm considering is a previous formula was more hydrating than this formulation right here. Again, this is all speculation. I don't know that they actually changed the formula. Maybe I got an old tube or something, but I don't feel like that would change the formula that much. I don't know. Plus, like I said, I got two refills. I got L5 and L6, and the same thing happens to me with both. Anyways, the Pat McGrath concealer is no longer a favorite of mine. It's no longer a tried and true product of mine. It still works nicely. As you can see, like, my under eyes are fully covered, but on me I just feel like it creases a bit throughout the day. I don't think it wears the best, and so for all of those reasons it's no longer a staple, especially when you compare it with how much love I have for the foundation. Moving on to the next product, and this one is a product that I don't think I could ever stop loving, and one that is also tried and true for me and that I have restocked on a bunch of times. I am talking about the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Blurring Under Eye Powder. I have mine in the shade Light. They have one that has a pink undertone now. I did not purchase it, and I'm glad I didn't because I saw side-by-side comparisons of the two, and you cannot tell the difference at all. Maybe once I finish this one, I'll try the one with the pink undertone just to say I've tried it. But as I said, I have seen multiple creators put them side by side under their eyes, and you cannot tell the difference at all, so I'm happy with my light one. I'm going to use my Wayne Goss number 3 brush. This one is brand new, by the way, and this is my third compact of this powder, so I have used it quite a bit. Anyways, I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to just pat the powder underneath my eyes. My AC just turned on and it's also storming outside, so if you hear any weird noises, that is why. I'm going to grab some more of that powder. I do love applying this powder with a fluffy brush so that it's not too much powder. I feel like if I apply it with a puff or a sponge, a lot of this powder can become a little heavy underneath the eye, but if you apply it with a soft brush like this one, I have never had a problem with it making me look dry or it looking heavy on my skin at all. It's a beautiful brightening powder. It has a beautiful blurring effect to it. And I've tried it with dozens of different concealers and it pairs well with any concealer I put it on top of. I'm going to add some right here in the center of the forehead. Something else I love about it is that it's not a fully matte powder. It actually has a bit of like radiance to it. So it looks very beautiful and very natural on the skin. So we have foundation, concealer, and setting powder on, and check out how beautiful and natural we're still looking over here. The next product I'm going to apply is the Pat McGrath bronzer. This is the Skin Fetish Divine bronzer, and my favorite shade happens to be the lightest shade, which was not what I expected when I first purchased her bronzers. I expected I would probably like the second shade more. I'm someone who really loves bronzer, so I never usually go for the lightest shade of bronzer. I like to be bronzy. However, the second shade, which I believe is called Nude Honey or something honey, is a bit too warm for me, and Naked Desire right here, which is the lightest shade, is a bit more of a neutral to cool tone bronzer. And so because I do prefer my neutral to cool tone bronzers, this is the shade that I love to go to. And the formulation of the Pat McGrath bronzers, in my opinion, is beautiful. They are nice and buildable, not too pigmented right away, which I love because I like to build my bronzer as I go. Naked Desire, as I said, has a beautiful neutral to cool undertone to it, and I find it to look very, very natural on the skin. See how natural it looks? My forehead now has some dimension to it, and it's nothing too obvious, nothing too evident. So I absolutely love her bronzer in the shade Naked Desire. And this is a product that, even though I do have a ton of other bronzers, I think if I were to run out of this one, I would definitely repurchase it. It's definitely one of the most natural looking powder bronzers in my collection. Let's go on the cheeks next. And again, I just love how incredibly natural this bronzer looks. And I'm just going to do a little bronzer on both sides of my nose as well, so that the nose matches the outer perimeter of my face. Once again, and I feel like I'm doing this every step of the way, I know, but it just looks so natural. Take a look at how natural my face still looks. When Pat McGrath stops being very natural is definitely when it comes to like the eyes, and that is my favorite feature of my face to enhance. And so that is another reason that I have so much love for this brand, because it kind of goes with my makeup preference. I love having a natural complexion and going all out on the eyes, and I feel like that is what Pat McGrath as a brand does. For blush, I do want to talk to you guys about both blush formulas. I prefer her powder blushes, but she also has these stick ones, which she recently expanded shades on, and these are very beautiful and very natural looking. I think the reason I prefer the powder over these is probably mainly like ease of use. I don't know, because these are actually really good, very easy to apply. They look very natural. They give your cheeks a beautiful glow without enhancing texture, etc. So I'm going to use them both. I'm going to use Paradise Peony on my cheeks first. I'm just going to add it right here. And then with my finger, I'm just going to tap it in place. I feel like if I use a sponge for this, it'll make it go away, but the finger is going to make it look very, very natural. See, check it out right there. We have the most beautiful light flush, and the cheek looks a little highlighted, but like nothing is enhanced. Everything looks very beautiful and very natural. And for the summertime, I feel like this is a wonderful blush formula to have. Again, for some reason, I do prefer the powder, so I am going to do the powder as well. Paradise Peony though is a beautiful shade to have in this formula because it's not too pink and it's not too warm either. It's kind of like right in the middle. Honestly beautiful. So for blush, I'm going to go with one that is similar in shade to Paradise Peony. This one is the Divine Blush in Nude Venus, which is kind of like a little peachy but not too warm. I'm going to apply it with my Rephr number 5 brush. Just kind of use it to set that cream, and you can see how beautiful her matte blush formulas are as well. These are beautiful powder blushes, and I feel like they have this stunning blurring effect to them that looks so flattering on the skin. They have a really good amount of pigmentation. They blend beautifully. They are buildable, and she has so many different shades in these blushes. You will for sure find a shade to fall in love with. I actually have fallen in love with multiple of her blush shades because they are that good. Nude Venus, definitely one of my favorites. I also really love the shade Flirtatious, which is a very light, more cool tone / neutral pinky color. And Divine Rose 2 right here is also really stunning. So check it out. Still natural looking, nice and flushed now. It is time for highlighter, and Pat McGrath has released a lot of limited edition highlighters throughout the years, and then there are some that you can still find on her website. I'm going to show you 2 of my favorites. I absolutely love this thing right here. This is the Cyber Lotus highlighting stick, I guess. Let's see, what is it called? Skin Fetish Highlighter Plus Balm Duo. So you have a clear-ish balm on this side that basically just adds a bit of like glow to the face, like a clear glow to the face. And then on the other side you have an actual glittery highlighter. Let me show you the swatch of this one right here. Now I really love this right here because I feel like it gives the skin a nice amount of glow, but it doesn't enhance the texture on the skin. And when it comes to powder, my absolute favorite shade of highlighting powder she's released is this one here, which is called Incandescent Gold 002. And you can take a look right there at how flattering this one is on my skin tone. Now, highlighters for the most part always enhance my texture because my texture exists, okay? It is there. So I try to thread carefully with the highlighter. And I think today I just want to do a little bit of this one applied with my finger and just have a bit of glow, a little shimmer, but nothing that is going to enhance my texture too much. I find that I can make this look pretty natural, and I'm putting it in quotations because we're putting glitter on the face, but at least it's not going to be texture enhancing highlighter. And so I'm just going to apply it with my finger. Take a look right there. See, looks very glowy, very shimmery, but I don't find that it's enhancing my texture. It's just like, hey, I have some face glitter on, not, hey, look at my pores, you know? A little bit of a difference. And I guess that's the thing. I don't mind having a little bit of shimmer on my cheeks at all. I just don't want that shimmer to show my pores. All right, I blended it a little bit more. Check it out right there. I think I want to do a little bit more blush. Just whatever leftover powder blush I have on my brush here, I'm just going to tap over my cheeks once again. And this officially is the last complexion step. So we have eyes and lips next to do. And I have a huge collection of Pat McGrath palettes. In fact, I'm thinking I want to do a video showing you every single Pat McGrath palette I own soon. I think I counted and I have more than 40. My favorite Pat McGrath palette formats are her quads and her mothership palettes. And one mothership palette I particularly feel like I neglect and I shouldn't. It's mothership number 10 right here. So this is what we're going to use today. I love this palette. For some reason, I don't reach for it as much as I do my other ones. I think the other ones have a defined color story. Like I think green, I think mothership number 3. If I think blue, I think mothership number 1. If I want a nude pink, I think mothership number 11 or mothership number 7. But with mothership number 10, I don't have like a color story in mind for it. So I think for that reason, it gets a little neglected in my collection. Here's what it looks like. My favorite shade, that beautiful shimmer right there. And then I absolutely love the mattes in this one. The shimmers are spectacular, beautiful metallic shades. And I think it'll go well with the makeup I'm wearing. The blush is going to match this crease color for sure. This is a neutral brown that of course will match everything, and of course I have to use my favorite shade because otherwise what is the point of bringing out this palette, you know? Pat McGrath has two different types of eyeshadow primers, one of which I like, the other one not so much, and I wanted to talk to you about both. This right here is the Pat McGrath Intensifies primer, which is kind of like a little gel. It comes in a tube. You can rub it on and it doesn't make your eyelids super sticky. It's just like a nice base for shimmer eyeshadow to stick on top of. It works with the mattes as well. And then the other one is the Intensifies Long Wear primer here, and I find that this one does make your eyelids pretty sticky, for which is not my favorite. Pat McGrath shadows I usually don't really have trouble blending, but the mattes can sometimes be a little bit finicky because they are so pigmented. Usually when I use a natural hair brush for my mattes with Pat McGrath, no issue at all. I have noticed I do tend to have a bit more trouble with the mattes if I'm using a synthetic brush. So I never use my synthetic brushes with Pat McGrath. Anyways, this primer in particular, I feel like makes the mattes harder to blend. And so I like it for eyelid purposes to put underneath the shimmer so that they stick really nicely, but I don't like this primer for all over the eyes. So with that said, I'm going to use the Artistry wand for my eyelid primer, and then I'm just going to tap it in with my fingers. I'm going to be using my Rephr brushes. These are my favorite for Pat McGrath shadows because they're natural brushes, and the first color is going to be this one up here. So I'm just going to back and forth blend it. This is a Rephr number 15. And so I start on the outer third of my eyelid, and then Pat McGrath shadows, even if they look nice and intense like this, they blend into nothingness. They blend very easily. You can take the smokiest, darkest shade and make it into a transition. So that's what I'm doing with the shade Rosewood Romantic. I'm going to just really blend it on my crease so that it becomes our transition shade with my Rephr number 15. And let's do the same thing over here. See how it starts super dark, but how light and blended I made it become? That's the goal right there. That is the goal. And I always make sure not to bring the eyeshadow down too far. So clean up from the edge of your eye upwards here. So now with a smaller blending brush, like the Rephr number 1, for instance, I'm going to use a different one that you guys will hear about very soon, hopefully. But the Rephr number 1, because this one's not out yet, I'm going to grab the darkest matte shade here. This is the shade Extreme Nocturne, and I'm going to start by tapping it right on the outer third of my eyelid. Tap, tap, tap it right there. And then with the tip of your brush, blend it into the previous shade. I like to do little circles to blend them into one another. Of course, I'm doing the same thing over here. So now that my matte shades are blended, let's go on with the fun shade, this one here. It's called VR Sextasy, and it's like a glittery multi-chrome. It's beautiful. And so with my finger, I'm just going to tap it right in the center of the eyelid. So fun. And I'm bringing it in as much as I dare to do so with my finger. Oh, it's such a fun shade. Such a fun shade for sure. Let me just do the same thing on the other side. With a Rephr number 2, which is a flat brush, I'm going to grab the highlighting shade. This one is called Skin Tense Glow, and I'm going to tap it right on the inner corner and bring it in around a third of the way in. And then with that same brush, I am going to grab a bit more Sextasy to blend it into that inner corner shade a little better with my brush. And so this right here is the top of the eye. I think it looks magical. Before I do the under eye area, which I want to do just with the same mattes that I used on top, let's talk Pat McGrath eyeliners. She does have liquid and pencil eyeliners, both of which have amazing formulations, but like nothing out of the ordinary either. They're good old creamy in the case of the pencil, pigmented, long-lasting eyeliners. However, one that I really love, and I think this might still be available. This came out as a Bridgerton collaboration. My point is I love it, and it is the Pat McGrath Kohl eyeliner. It has this very, very intimidating tip right here, and what I like to do is squeeze it in between my eyes and line both top and bottom water lines with this eyeliner. It just gives you this perfect, very intense tight line. So then after I do that, with a small brush and the dark brown shade, I'm going to smoke out that eyeliner right in between my lower lashes. And I'm going to use my transition shade to further smoke things out. It became a bit too intense, especially back here, because I was paying attention to filming instead of what I was doing, but I'm going to fix it in a second. And hopefully I can do the other eye properly. Let's see. I was not looking for this wing situation to happen, so I'm going to see if I can fix it with a magical Q-tip and a little more of our transition shade. Let me do it again, paying attention this time. That's all that needed to happen. We made things way too dramatic on the other side. Blending it out with my fluffy, small, skinny brush. And so check it out, this right here is the finished eye look before any mascara. Now another favorite product of mine from the brand is definitely the mascara, specifically this one here, the Dark Star Mascara from Pat McGrath. It gives you really beautiful, very voluminous long lashes that have a really nice amount of separation to them. If you live in a very humid climate or you sweat a lot, I feel like this one might transfer a little bit, but if that is not the case, it will stay put and not transfer on you. Let me go ahead and work on building my mascara, and I'll show you the final results. We have the Dark Star Mascara on. As you can see, voluminous, long, dramatic lashes, which I think is harder to appreciate when the eye look is as dramatic as this one is, but you can definitely still see it. In fact, I'm not going to do any falsies. I'm going to just do the mascara. And so let's go ahead and move on to the lips. Pat McGrath has an amazing, amazing, amazing lip collection. I love her lip liner formulas. I love her lipstick formulas. Her gloss formula is my #1 top gloss formula in my collection. I love it that much. And so Pat McGrath lip products are definitely also a staple. For lip liner today, I'm going to use my Nude Venus lip liner since we have the Nude Venus blush on. This one is going to be a great match. And you can see how pigmented these lip liners are. They have a nice matte finish to them, but they're still kind of on the creamy side. And as I said, they are definitely very long lasting. Some other lip liner shades from Pat McGrath I love are shades like Structure or Done Undone, which is this but more pink rather than peachy. For lipstick, I'm going to use the shade Negligee today. And the lipsticks that come in this type of packaging have a nice satin finish to them, and they feel very creamy and very hydrating on the lips. Another shade I love, possibly my most favorite, is this one here. This one is called Nude Romantique, and it's just a bit more neutral rather than warm. I love it. And then Pat McGrath also has amazing matte lipstick formulas. Moving on to the glosses, I'm going to go for Nude Venus once again because we're having a Nude Venus type of day today. And like I said, her gloss formula, my most favorite out of every gloss I own. It's that good. So here's Nude Venus. These glosses are long lasting, they're not sticky, and they are very, very juicy. And so this lipstick combination concludes this full face of Pat McGrath products. As I said, even though during the last year I feel like she hasn't had the best releases, Pat McGrath is still one of my top most favorite brands. I love a lot of the Pat McGrath products in my collection. I think she has incredible formulas, and I hope that in the future we get more releases from her that become makeup collection staples, like a lot of the ones that I showed you guys in today's video. Remember, everything on my face is listed down below in the description box, so definitely check out the products if you're interested in getting anything. She has sales often, so I'll definitely keep you posted on those. And that is all for today's video. I really hope that you guys like this full face of Pat McGrath products. If you did, don't forget to please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I love you all so much. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back in the next video. Bye.